All right. We have watched 14 lightsaber entries.
My
I want
God.
to spend one more time around the room. Thoughts about the entries this year, the crop as a whole, and also any observations and things like that, and how you feel it all went. For myself, again, not a judge, this was a strong contest. There was a lot of really good entries in this, and also, you know, there's always a few that people are like, I made a lightsaber fight, and you're like, cool. And then there's always someone like Jedi Pastor or Nate or Whiteley or the Russian guy at the end here who are just like, damn, that was cool. Well played, y'all.
Yeah.
And for the most part, this has been a fun one for me. Have you guys noticed any trends this year or anything like that? Ryan, anything interesting? Ryan?
Like I was saying earlier, I noticed that a lot of people are getting really sort of interactive with their environment and using it in more aware ways.
Cutting
and
up on it and stuff?
Yeah, and destruction. Yeah, leaving scorch marks and stuff. And
breaking bowls in certain instances.
Breaking bowls, sure.
Breaking bowls.
In the chat room, someone's like, sparks. Lots of sparks.
Oh, yeah, lots of sparks.
Tons and tons
I'll
of
throw
sparks.
out there as a little advice, though. Well, a big key to making the sparks work is you cut out the person when they're in front of the sparks. So you have the depth. You set it behind things and you know, so it's not just a static thing that you just put on top of your shot.
And also find smaller bursts of sparks as opposed to shrinking down the giant sparks, because you can tell that they feel very shrunk down. Just as a, you know,
Eddie,
take on that
how
one.
are you feeling about the fights this year?
The fight's really, good. The things I was impressed by, I was very impressed by. The things that I maybe wasn't as much impressed by, I think they will benefit from being in this contest with those others and see, okay, this is what people are doing, this is what people are capable of.
And then do it again.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed is I really want to see people being creative. It's a lightsaber, yes, but being creative with the kinds of lightsabers, like with the Naginata lightsaber that we saw, and using
Or Whiteley dunking it in the water.
Whiteley, finding creative uses for the weapons and really opening up the potential for a lightsaber fight beyond what a certain meat-bearded filmmaker ever did. And I think that's truly the sort of the lasting legacy of Star Wars, is things like that, where people taking the material and doing things that you never really expected to do with it. And I in terms of fight choreography, I'd like to see even more. I'd like to see people keep pushing in that direction.
Cool.
I'm glad to see it go, because there were a couple of years in there where it felt like it wasn't going anywhere. It felt very much like people were like, oh yeah, I put this together yesterday, and I didn't have a lot of time. It's like, yes, you did. You had 6 months, but you just decided to put it together yesterday, and it's 10 minutes long, and you're wasting my time. But this time, I think the level of entries, by and large, this is the best showing that the competition has ever had. This was a very tough one for us to really kind of make our choices.
Yeah.
Some and there's a legitimate debate amongst us.
Yeah. So I was very pleased at the level of a lot of the stuff going on this year.
Ryan, any thoughts? Oh, you already had thoughts with the destruction.
I
And
already
all
had
that
some
stuff.
thoughts. Well, yeah, but
I'm sure he has more thoughts.
Well, in general, as we're just speaking to just the quality of the entries in general this year, I think we've got some really strong stuff. I agree with what Mike said. I think that, as far as I can recall back, I think this is the strongest year that we've had, and it's fun. It makes me smile to know that we're progressing into a world where it's becoming easier and easier and more affordable to get your hands on cameras and stuff that can really make your stuff look good. Nate's looks like a movie, and we're going to see more and more of that as we go. And I think that's gonna also just sort of bring to a head the part where, all right, everyone has the capacity to make
It starts weeding them out.
Yeah, it's going to come down to your ability to shoot it the way that you should shoot it and light it the way you should light it and all that things. And again, these are all technical aspects that are not necessarily having an impact on, it's a lightsaber choreography competition, and we all put thought into sort of our decisions as far as evaluating it based on that fairly strictly. And the other stuff, of course, it impacts the way that you view a film in your impression of it in general, but we're trying to separate that. But I'm just saying that it's really fun that we're moving into a world where these are going to just sort of keep looking better and better.
Brian?
Well, we did have a conscious effort of let's focus on the choreography, but ultimately when you get down to it, you cannot separate any of the various aspects from filmmaking from one another wholly. So, ultimately it comes down to the fact that there was foreshadowing in this one, that it was properly constructed in this way, and that there is an arc, and that you can tell there was an idea that was fully fleshed
The grammar
out.
of filmmaking is there for a reason.
Right, and the grammar of filmmaking exists, to serve the function of telling a story, and choreography is just one part of telling a story. So I as somebody who is not, really especially interested in choreography or lightsabers, really, to be honest. And the fact that there were several in here that held my interest as stories, as mini short films, was immensely gratifying and, awesome. I was really happy to see it. And I hope we see more of that. And I hope that if we do decide to do this again in the future, that more of the entrance and maybe the contest itself can be more geared towards, tell a short story with a fight in it. And let's go that direction.
I've taught each year. It's like we kind of talk about. Okay, let's clarify: is this a choreography competition or is this a fight scene competition?
Right.
Because those are slightly two different things. Yeah. But I do want to say, I mean, we're talking about
things that are related to each other. Ultimately,
we're talking about things becoming more professional. I think that's true. I think there's really quickly, again, we've said it before when we went through them, but there is something to be said about the people who don't have a lot of experience, and they're looking at stuff. I mean, now like Whiteley's and Nate's and stuff like that. Next year they're going to be looking at their own stuff, and they're going to know that they can't get to that level because they haven't done it before. It's their first time or whatever.
But they're going to reach for that
There's
bar.
still something to be said for being willing to enter, even if you're like, I know I'm not going to win, but at least I'm learning something and I'm creating and going to the next level.
Trey?
There's a learning curve that I think we all go through where sometimes you might look at a movie or you might look at these kind of movies and have that thought like, oh, I'm going to enter that next year, and then you make your movie and you compare it to some of those others and you go, why does mine not look like theirs?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, that's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's like what?
It's just the only context I've heard that in.
Oh, geez, stop it.
Well, I don't have any responsibility
So
for
anyway.
whatever the hell you're thinking right now. I'll go back to my thought. It's like
Lean back. Teague.
lean back, Teague. Smoke your hookah. Take your dirty mind, out of here. Anyway, it's like why does my film not look like theirs? Does that help you? And to be to analyze it and realize what are the differences and what, because the thing that's nice about having it always be choreography is that it does level that playing field.
Yes.
I mean, you could easily win this competition by locking off a camera in a white room and doing the most amazing bit of choreography
With
that
sticks.
anyone has ever seen. You'd have to be really good at choreography to do it, but it can be done by the rules of this competition.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important to also recognize that some of these are far more than just lightsaber choreography, that there's sometimes excellently well-made films or very funny films or very clever films or creative films or films that used what they had and maximized it in a way and made something very fun out of it. So
well, and with that in mind, like one thing I would just want to say kind of globally again, having everybody watched all of these now, a lot of people, a lot of the entrants are really well. They have a lot of skill when it comes to the visual effects or maybe the lighting and all these other things. With that in mind, if you take the time to learn how to do that stuff, if you take the time to research and spend time doing that, I would also recommend, if you want to continue doing these, take the time to maybe take a fencing class, take the time to maybe really practice the physical aspect of it, because that will help inform your fight just as much as learning how to do a reflection on your lightsaber or any of these other sort of technical aspects. I would also encourage the physical as well. That would only benefit you not just for this, but also in the future for other projects you might want to do.
Cool.
Well, one other thing I was going to say is, like, earlier we were talking
Everyone's
about...
like, let him vote!
Yeah, we promise we're about to vote. Just in general, we were saying for the entries, even if you think... Because I can imagine it would also be discouraging. You see some of the quality of these entries, and then it's you're like, oh well, screw it. Why even? Why even bother?
There's really no weight class in this competition.
Yeah.
That's
right.
That's an issue.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like we were saying, the choreography really sort of distills that into the thing that we're evaluating, and so you should really take a stab at it. And the thing that I think is really good about having this contest every year is that even if you don't win, and even if you're like, well, whatever, it's not my best work because of whatever reasons, but as long as you put it in, at the very, very least, you're still, at least in this year, you're getting a bunch of people who are going to give you some real, honest, hopefully useful feedback on your fight. And so I would imagine it would be at least an educational experience for you to sort of have other people objectively, critique your thing and tell you where to improve. And I think that's a great function of this whole contest.